welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Office chats with Northwest faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends to hear about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Northwest Career Services Assistant Director Travis Klein.
And I'm Hannah Christian, the Director of Career Services here at Northwest. And this is the finale show, and today's guest is...
I am Lance Tatum, and I serve as the president of Northwest Missouri State University.
Welcome. It's great to have you here today.
Great to be here. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Travis.
And in our 5 seconds of research before we hopped on here revealed you are the 11th president of Northwest.
That is correct. And, I think that's a little bit of a testimony to the culture and legacy here at the university. You're talking about a university that has 100+ years of history, with only 11 people who have led it. So I think that was also one of the pieces of this position that attracted me to it, that there wasn't a lot of turnover at the CEO level. So proud to be the 11th president at Northwest Missouri State University.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to hop in here. So let's just go back to kind of the very beginning of your, I guess, thoughts about what you might have wanted to do in your career.
Yep.
Talk to us about kind of your path. We're just interested to hear about that.
Absolutely. So I went to school at a university that is very much like Northwest Missouri State. It was founded as a teacher's college back in the late 1800s in a rural part of the state of Alabama. Troy University. At the time that I was there, it was Troy State University. I'd come out of a large high school, had decided that I thought I wanted to be a professional baseball player coming out of high school.
What position?
I played second base. So really, was fortunate enough to have been one of the better players on our high school team. And so I had a chance to play junior college baseball coming out of high school. And, early on, it kind of dawned on me that everybody that was out there was the best player on their high school baseball team. And that perhaps professional baseball may not be in my future, only because not that I was not committed to it, but that I just, I started thinking about life, thinking in my young career that I really had to think through what I might want to do for my future. Sat down and talked to my dad and said, I know I've been given a chance to continue playing baseball in college at a 4-year school, but, it's out of state. I'm not really sure that it's the right fit for me. I had friends that went to Troy, and so ended up enrolling at Troy. Was very fortunate to connect early with a faculty mentor, and that really kind of was one of the foundational pillars of my development. This gentleman was really interested in my potential to work in an administrative type of position. He gave me lots of mentoring and lots of opportunity as an undergraduate to work on campus and to do things to lead other students. When I talk to student groups and they ask me, if you want to lead, what kind of things should you be interested in? And I said, well, you really need to be interested in practicing leadership, because you make lots of mistakes. And there's lots to learn. And so the earlier you start kind of engaging in those activities, I think the better you have on the latter side of your career to be really good at what you do. That same faculty member thought I had something in me that was beyond just an undergraduate degree, convinced me to get my master's, and then actually convinced me to go on and get my PhD. I did that at Florida State. I spent 90 through 93 in Tallahassee, which again was a growth opportunity for me because I came from a small school and then all of a sudden found myself at a very large school. I always tell the story on the first day of classes, that first fall I was there. The first class I had, it was a 7:30 in the morning class. It was a Monday morning. And, we got assigned 600 pages to read and had to write another 40. You know this, Hannah, you're in a doctoral program.
I'm very, very aware of this.
Had to be done by Wednesday. So I left my office that morning and was walking across campus to go to the library. And it dawned on me, I didn't know where the library was. And so I stopped at a corner and there was a traffic light there and someone pulled up next to me on their bicycle. And I said, hey, could you help me out? Can you tell me where the library is? And they said, which library are you interested in? And I said, well, how many libraries are there here? He said, there are 6 libraries here. I thought, this is a big jump from where I came from. So it was a great experience. Ended up teaching at a community college in Georgia for 4 years, had a great chance to learn and hone my classroom skills there. Ended up going back to Troy in 98, started out as an assistant professor. My life changed in 2005 when I was selected to participate in a fellows program on campus. It was a leadership development program. They would select 4 to 5 young faculty staff each year and kind of run them through a year-long program, give them a chance to look behind the curtain. They would pair them with senior leaders as mentors. And that was probably the first time that I thought, I think I want to do something more than just being a department chair. And the gentleman who ran that program was talking to me one day and he said, I think you can do more than what you're doing now. And it really planted a seed in my head. And through that process, I thought, I think I want to be a university president. And I remember getting back with him. Dr. John Klein was his name. And we had an exercise in one of our sessions where we were talking about the future. And he said, I noticed you didn't say anything about wanting to be a university president. And I said, yeah, I didn't think I wanted to say it out loud. He said, well, you got to say it. How can people help you get to where you want to go if they have no idea what you want to be? And so one of the scariest moments in my life was actually saying out loud to a group of people, I want to be a university president. But it really set me on the path. And once Jill and I got to a place in our life where our kids had graduated from high school and they were off at college, and we felt like we had a little bit of an empty nest opportunity, we got serious about looking at positions, and Northwest came up and it really appealed to us and we jumped on
Wow. That's crazy.
it.
So you just said that. This is what we tell, everyone all the time, from, a freshman who's looking for an internship, maybe after that first year of college, to a senior who's, going to graduate, to a faculty member who's looking for another position, or an alumnus. You have to speak and you have to put out there kind of this thing that you're looking for, because otherwise other people can't help you get there.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about, for those who maybe don't understand the distinction in the types of work between, let's say, generally people, I feel like, know what a professor does, right? When you
Right.
think about college, you think about a professor teaching in a classroom, but what's the difference between being a professor in a department chair and then a department chair to a different, maybe
Right.
administrative
Yeah.
level position,
Yeah.
and then from there to president? So maybe tell me a little bit about those
Yeah.
different leaps between those positions.
Yeah, and so my path began as just a classroom professor. I moved to a department chair, and then I moved to the dean of a college, and then I moved to a campus administrator, and then to the provost, chief academic officer of the university, and then president here at Northwest. So in the lower levels of a university structure, particularly on the academic side, there's lots and lots and lots of connection with students. Uh, the thing that draws me to a university setting, it's the students, right? It's the energy and the hope for the future that's in their eyes that really draws me to this particular kind of work. Having an impact on someone's life and having a positive impact on someone's life is one of the greatest highs I think you can ever feel. All right. And so early on, it was about students in the classroom building confidence, building content knowledge, getting them into a position of being successful, working with departmental faculty about program development and what we do as a department to grow ourselves and to really position ourselves within the academic disciplines that existed within the department at a state and regional level. And that was great work. I mean, it really was very rewarding work. When I moved from a department chair to a dean, the work began to broaden, and the distance between my daily activities and students began to stretch a little bit. So, not around students every day, more around faculty, more around college administrators, more about policy development and implementation, more about strategic vision of leading and moving a larger unit into a certain direction. I think that what I found initially was the influence you had at the department level was significant, but all of a sudden now at the college level, your landscape really broadens. So instead of dealing with maybe 3 disciplines, you're dealing with, I don't know, 6 to 8 disciplines. Your faculty count goes up. The real estate you control goes up, and that impact changes, right? So maybe you're not helping students gain confidence in their public speaking or understanding career paths. Now you're trying to build capacity for those students to be successful in a broader sense. And so your skills change, the way you do business changes, your day begins to change a little bit. I always told people that, the problems become a little bit more complex. Sometimes the problems become a little uglier, I always thought that, dealing with some issues at the departmental level were difficult, and you get to the dean's level and all of a sudden you find out, whoa, it can get worse. There are things that are happening that really I don't like, but there are also great things happening. I moved to a college campus director's position, and then all of a sudden, where I was very internally focused, now I became more externally focused. Community development, donor development, alumni relations, working with industries in terms of building partnerships between the campus and what was happening in the community, kind of helped round out my skill set to some degree. I then moved up to the provost. I always tell people one of the most interesting pieces of being the provost is that most people have no idea what you're doing. It's kind of behind the curtain. If you say provost, they have no idea what that is. Like, provost, what do you do? That's why I always add the chief academic officer on the back end. If you at least say academics, they figure you're doing something with classes. You really have a great deal of influence over what happens with program development, who gets hired at the university within faculty positions. Promotion and tenure is really a big part of your portfolio. There is an external piece to that, but really, again, more focused to the inside. Most people don't, when you walk into a room, they know you as a person, but they don't really understand what you do or how you do it. All of a sudden you make that leap to president and everything changes. Everything changes. Everyone is interested in what you're saying. Everybody is watching what you're doing. Everyone wants 5 minutes of your time to talk a little bit about what they think is important to the institution, and they're trying to figure out what is important to you in terms of the institution. It becomes a much more external role. You really serve, the CEO serves as the real face of the institution to external stakeholders. The conversations become very strategic. My approach to being the president at Northwest is to try to stay out of the weeds. I always found the greatest success that I had in leading people was setting the expectation, doing the very best I could at giving them the resources they needed to meet those expectations, and then periodically working with them to make sure that we're still on track, that things are still going well, and to provide mentoring or guidance, or in some cases just plowing the road, right? Getting all the obstacles out of the way so that they could be successful. The more that success happens, I think the more you're successful as a leader. I would be content not being recognized at every single function. I don't really live for that. I think that's a part of the president's job that is necessary, but from an internal standpoint, I'm perfectly fine, standing around talking to people and not having to make comments, although I know that's a big part of what I do. I think the chief role of the president is trying to manage the hope of the university, trying to remain positive, trying to keep things moving forward, and being a glasses half full kind of guy, and not trying to focus on the glasses half empty, because people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that there are brighter days ahead, or there are continued bright days ahead. And so those are the complexities and the changes that I've experienced from being in the classroom to being president. I still love being around students. I had a chance a couple weeks ago to go to Jefferson City with our student senate group and watch them talk to state legislators. One of the proudest moments I've ever had since being here at Northwest is watching those students interact with state legislators, and how articulate they were, and how well they represented the institution, and how knowledgeable they were on the issues, not only at the state level, but at the institutional level. So I get to interact a little bit, but different. I get to judge variety shows, and Mr. Northwest and things like that, which are of great fun. So it's just a different type of interaction with students and even with faculty and staff.
What subject did you teach? You might have mentioned it, but
Yeah. I took kind of a non-traditional route to the presidency when it comes to discipline. So if you look at the curriculum betas of, most presidents, they're going to come out of arts and sciences, or they're going to come out of business. I come out of education, which is not,
a good fit
it
for
happens.
Northwest.
Yeah, it happens. But specifically, my discipline is sport management. So at one point in my life, I wanted to be, an athletic director, and ended up getting into a classroom, and like I said, fell in love with that. But yes, so sport management is my background.
And you came to a
So
university where sports is a big deal, so that
That's
works
right.
out.
That's right. Again, part of the portfolio that I deal with is athletics. So yeah, it helps to have some understanding of that, and appreciation, at least on some level, of how the importance of athletics to the university. Not that that athletics is the university. It's part of the experience, right? It's I always tell people, athletics is a key component of binding people to the institution. It creates tradition. It creates pride. It's the one thing that, not the only thing, but one of the things that people come back to campus to participate in. So it's important, and it's just part of the puzzle.
Part of the culture for
That's
sure.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
talk about a little bit, maybe give us a few examples of your leadership development,
Yeah.
and maybe share a few maybe pointers in terms of like if listeners are looking for some of those leadership skills, looking to develop them in themselves.
Um, I think we all start with kind of a misunderstanding of what our leadership style will eventually turn into. I made all the same mistakes that everybody makes. You try to mimic some of the people that you looked up to, and maybe try to use their leadership style as your own. The gentleman that I spoke about, who really had a major impact on my life when I got to college, was a command sergeant in the Army, the Alabama National Guard. So he was kind of a large man, big voice, walked into a room, and when he said hello, it just blew the whole room up. And he was able to do things because of his presence, because of the way he used his voice. And he was not a dictator, but he could be dictatorial at times about things. And I remember a particular incident. I was in charge of running some of the facilities that were part of our group. One of them was a gymnasium. I helped supervise the gym, and we had open play and we had scheduled play in the gym. And so every once in a while we'd have pick up basketball in there, and that was fine. And but we had a sorority volleyball team that had scheduled to practice in the gym at a time. So I get a phone call at my apartment one night, and the person at the gym says, they won't stop playing pickup basketball. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, we've asked them to stop and they won't stop. I'm like, come on, Jacob. His name was Jacob, actually. I said, just go down there and tell them that their time has ended, right? And they need to vacate the floor. I've tried that. They will not leave. You got to come down here. I'm like, okay. So I get in my car. I'm a bit agitated, by the way. Drive down there, walk into the gym, and in the middle of their game, as they're running up and down the court, I just intercept the pass of the basketball and put it under my arm and walk off the gym, off the floor. Sit, you're done, guys. Time for you to get off the floor. Using the style of my mentor that did not work for me in that particular moment, they backed me into a corner and basically told me that, who are you and why are you taking our basketball and you can't do this. And we ended up, getting campus police there quickly. And fortunately, I did not lose my life that night. But it taught me that style was not going to work for me, right? That I had to be a little bit more savvy in how I dealt with things. And so it was the first lesson that another's leadership style wasn't necessarily going to work for me. I see myself in most situations as a consensus builder. I think that a lot of my success has come with taking, sides of a discussion and trying to find common ground for the groups to move forward with. My personality, I don't yell, I don't scream. I rarely get mad. I can get frustrated, but I rarely get mad. So because I have a fairly constant level of behavior, it creates trust from the people that work for me, that they can come to me even with difficult situations, and there's not going to be this strong reaction or retribution from it. I think that my life as an athlete taught me that striking out one time is not the worst thing that can happen to you. That you'll get another chance, and so it's about failure, but learning from your failures. It's about, not quite meeting the full goal, but figuring out ways to get the most out of a situation that you can. It's been a great lesson for me through my life, that you don't always get everything you want, but you can still keep moving the organization forward by victories, right? Doesn't always have to be a home run. It can be a single. You notice I use a lot of sports metaphors as I talk about things. I think the practicing leadership is really, really important. I tell students all the time, get engaged, right? I think we're in a really difficult period of time for young adults and kids in general, and that is that we've become so isolated in our daily life that we're rarely around other people. And I think you have to be, we're built to be around other people. And you have to get into a club situation, talk about moving the club in certain directions, build confidence with your peers. The greatest compliment I think that you can receive as a student is to have your fellow students come to you and say, "Will you do this for us? You seem to be good at this. We're struggling. We need somebody to kind of pull us together or help organize us." You got to do that. That doesn't happen sitting in your dorm room and not getting engaged. So I think you have to get engaged. You have to practice. I think you have to find good examples in your life of positive role models and people that do things the right way. I mentioned I was in a class a couple weeks ago speaking to a recreational leadership class, and I said, when your parents tell you that you are going to turn into the 5 people that you hang out with, they're absolutely right. The way I used to describe it in class is, if you hang around with people who love to play the piano and every day they play the piano and every night they get together and they play the piano, sooner or later you're going to try to play the piano, right? Because you want to be a part of that group. And so whatever your group is into, that is what you're going to be into. And if you're not careful, you will find yourself at times slipping into bad situations. And so, you got to pick your friends wisely. But when you find adults, others who are good role models, I think you start watching them. You start trying to, build habits that are positive and productive. I tell my kids, be kind to people. Be kind. I mean, I don't think we're kind to each other anymore. Say hello. Ask people how their day is going. Be genuine in how you respond to their questions. If you don't know, you say, "I don't know." I mean, it's a great lesson I learned. Don't try to fake it, because people will call you out quickly if they think that you are not speaking the truth. So I think being truthful, being honorable, fulfill your promises. Don't promise something if you're not going to try to fulfill your promise. And then at the end of the day, just be an honorable person.
Excellent. Those are definitely good leadership tips, or just tips in general. So we mentioned being just the 11th president of Northwest and kind of the long tenure that those previous presidents have had. And this will come out on the day of your inauguration, so I don't want to
Right.
spoil what's going to be announced there. But can you kind of lay out maybe kind of your vision for where Northwest goes moving forward under your leadership?
Yeah, the great thing about this job is that Northwest is not broken. Like, this is not a rebuild, right? There are great things that have been created and that are ongoing at this university. What I want to do is I want to try to move some of those things to a higher level. I think that is certainly, trying to be strategic in how we think. One of the things I'll talk about in that inauguration speech, and there's a balance there, right? So it's your opportunity to really kind of say what you feel and where you see things going, but people are not going to spend 35 minutes of their day listening to you going on and on and on about this and that. So it's kind of a tight speech. We're really looking at about 12 to 15 minutes tops in what we say. So there won't be depth into it, But what we're doing is we're trying to simplify our approach by identifying 3 priorities. So some of these priorities are, practical in some sense. One is about enrollment growth and sustainability. Regional comprehensive universities are dependent upon tuition. The state is not going to give us all that we need to operate. What tears at me is the fact that Northwest is an access point to higher education for a group of people who don't have either the means or the ability to go to big, large land grant flagship universities, right? They want a higher education experience. We're local to many folks, we're regional to many folks, our size is appropriate for many folks. But the cost to go to college continues to increase. So we got to be mindful of our expense side because the revenue side is such a complex formula. Part of that equation is enrollment, right? We need students to come here. So we are taking a hard look right now at our enrollment strategy. Not that it's wrong, right? But we have to squeeze out every little bit from our effort that we can get. And so we're having, good, open, honest conversations now about, what type of student do we recruit to the university? Some are going to fit very well here. Some are going to struggle a little bit more here. But what does that mix look like? So enrollment growth and sustainability. So not only is it getting them here, but it's fulfilling the promise. So the promise is graduation. We recruit you here because we want you to get your degree. So what do we need to do to enhance the sustainability piece of this? How do we retain students? It's a lot more complicated today than it was when I started in 1993. What students need is changed. What they rely on has changed. I'm worried about perseverance, right? I'm worried about a student's ability to sustain a punch. I think students get knocked down today, and it's really hard for them to get up. And so, we Dr. Baker and I talk at length about the things that are needed outside the classroom. Dr. Hoyman and I talk at length about what things are needed in the classroom. But, enrollment growth and enrollment sustainability, I don't think that we're looking to be an institution of, 15,000 students, but there is a sweet spot for us, right? There is a place where our staffing model and our student count will match up. And that's what we're looking to build to. The second thing is the collegiate experience. You come to a university to do more than just sit in a classroom. And so the culture of Northwest is very important to me. There's a culture here that really draws me to the institution. And when you talk to students, that culture is a big part of what draws them to the university. So it's understanding, where they live, right? Where they sleep, where they eat, and where they recreate. And then how do they connect to others? How do they build this sense of belonging to the college community? And what are the things that we need in place to make their collegiate experience of real value? And again, not everyone has the same experience, right? I mean, I wish everyone had the most optimum experience, but there are all kind of factors that interfere with that. I know we have students who have to work in order to remain in school. So their collegiate experience is going to be a little bit different from somebody that doesn't have to do that. But we want everyone to enjoy their experience. And so we want them to have, I don't want them worrying about the condition of the dorm, right? I don't want them to worry about whether it's safe to go out after dark on campus or in the community. I want them to be proud of the campus. I want them to bring their friends here. I want them to bring their parents here. And then I want all the things that they connect to be a good quality experience, the best we can. So number 1 is enrollment growth and sustainability. Number 2 is the collegiate experience. And number 3 are people. Investing in the people that make this place special. It is the investment from our faculty and our staff into the student that is the most valuable piece of what we do here. People genuinely care about students. They really, it's not, I said it the other day, you're not just a number at Northwest, you're a name. And when I said it, I paused after I said it, and a student said, "Why did you pause, Dr. Tatum?" I said, because I almost teared up because it really does mean something here. So we have to invest in people. It's not just about salary, although let's be honest, people have to be able to live. And so, we are working through this compensation study to try to get our people in the right salary bands. We want to be competitive when we recruit people to the university, but we also want to hang on to talent once we get them here, right? Uh, at the end of the day, people will grow, people will develop, other opportunities will be presented to them, and they will take those. And that's, to me, that's the greatest compliment you can have as a leader, is that, you've grown people, and at some point in time, they go to bigger and better things. Now, we'd like to retain some of that talent here to help us lead the university. So we're going to have to invest in people. I think part of that is creating an atmosphere where there is a sense of value of a person back to the institution. I ask lots of questions in meetings. I ask for lots of opinions from people. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to, implement everyone's suggestion, but I think it's important to hear a broad input from internal stakeholders. And I'm not foolish to think that there are not challenges at the university. We certainly have our challenges. Any large, complex organization has that. But I do think that people are the key to our long-term success. And so finding ways to invest and to grow and to retain great people is going to lead this institution to the future.
A good coaching tree is the best measure of success of a good
That's right.
coach, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want, as much as you hate for your talent to go off to other places, I mean, that's part of development, right? And it certainly speaks well of you and your organization if you're growing people into bigger and better things.
And I tell students even, because someone has grown and left and gone somewhere else, that doesn't mean they're gone. They're gone.
Right.
They're dead
Right.
to you. You
That's
still
right.
have that
That's
connection
right.
with them no matter where they are. So,
Yep.
that just benefits Northwest in other ways.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've lost in some conversations is the value of building networks. I think the pandemic really kind of knocked us all back on our heels when it came to our network development, because we all had to kind of pull in. I see more and more of that from the professional side of the institution, getting back out there, getting back engaged with organizations and associations, and building those networks again. But it really is important, if you're looking to grow into development, to have that networking of other professionals at your disposal.
And one thing we found doing this podcast is there's a whole lot of people on this campus who started here maybe as students or fresh out of college,
Yep.
worked here, went
Yep.
somewhere else, and then
Yep.
came back. So
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
they go somewhere else and build those talents and get these amazing skills. Then they come back and bring them back to Northwest. So that's also a really good thing. And I think those connections, I've always seen that as one of the biggest strengths of the university is people who go to school here and get a degree, people who work here, like that Bearcat family, that feeling of connection, that once a Bearcat, always a Bearcat, all those things that we say, they really do matter to a lot of people. There's a huge amount of pride. You can go anywhere in the country. When I was a recruiter at Northwest, I went to a conference at Disney World, and the front desk was someone, I went to Northwest, and we had like a 45-minute conversation in Orlando, Florida. So you never know where you're going to run into people, and that pride is always there. So that I feel like that networking is a really solid strength of Northwest that you just don't see at every other school. So
yeah, and you try to explain to individuals that what is here is not everywhere, right? There are places that they have the components that are necessary to have an institution, but it's the margins where they're missing some of the magic. And the relationship that the university has to the city here is an incredible relationship. Now, I understand, has always been incredible, right? There are moments where perhaps things get a little bit off target, but I think speaking from today's perspective, that the relationship is really strong. The city sees the value of the university, and the university sees the value that the city has back to its growth. So yeah, I think you're right. And I think the greatest compliment to a university comes when a person leaves and then fights to get back, right? Because the place impacted their life in such a positive way that they want to give back to students and to the institution. So I think it's a great compliment. And I wear my Bearcat stuff whenever I travel, because I also, people will also yell out, go Bearcats to me, or ask me what I do for the university. And I was on a plane coming from Atlanta couple of months ago, and I was sitting in my seat, and someone coming down the aisle stopped and took a step back and said, "You're a Bearcat?" And I said, I am a Bearcat. And it's, oh my gosh, I went to Northwest, 15 years ago. And so the line starts backing up on the plane, and it's like, oh, great, great. You may need to move down the road a little bit, but you're right. It's a lot of enthusiasm.
Any final words, encouragements, sharings of the hope that you guide us in here?
Yeah, I think there are great days ahead for this university. My goal is to help in positioning the institution so that its growth and its forward movement is not necessarily dependent on me, right? That it's part of the organizational behavior that we're moving in a direction that makes sense to the institution. I think that there's an evolutionary step that is coming for Northwest. I think that, you talk about academic program development. I think there are programs out on the horizon that we'll start trying to grab onto and pull to us. I think there's eventually a conversation about additional graduate level opportunities. I would love to see a day that Northwest has an opportunity to offer terminal degree programs. I think that's just part. I mean, you're not going to offer this big inventory of terminal degree programs, but certainly something in education, we can handle that, right? That's really in our mission statement. We've got to work through the political, obstacle course of how you make that happen. But I think that there's real development in the future from the academic side. I think we're going to continue to grow the collegiate experience. I think this place will continue to evolve in ways that makes the experience on campus of value and of benefit to students. Part of what I see the mission of the institution is that when a student comes here, when they leave here, they've grown in the time that they were on campus. They are a little wiser. They're a little bit better at handling more complex situations, so that when we launch them off into their professional life, they're positioned to at least have that initial success, which is so important to seeing the value back to college. That's a big concern I have right now, is that people are losing this sense of value that a university college education provides. All the statistics and all the data still says, a BS is worth a whole lot more than just a high school diploma, in the long run. And I think because we always want to see instant results and this kind of instant gratification piece, we don't understand the long game. It's kind of like retirement. You start out as a brand new employee and they're like, you're taking how much out of my check for retirement? I need that money today. But then when you do finally get to the point of retirement, you see what you've built there. You see the value of the early investment. And so I think that's kind of what I would like to leave it is, in my time here, is that the investment in the institution and then the continued success it has because of that early investment.
All right. Well, thank you
Excellent.
so much for being our guest.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Well, that will do it for this season of Behind the Bearcat, and we'll talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, be sure to give us a thumbs up below. That helps out. Also, if you've not done so yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Also, we'd love to connect with you on social media. You can find Behind the Bearcat on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Plus, the audio podcast comes out on Fridays on all the major podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching Behind the Bearcat, and as always, we'll talk to you next time.